Why people move to California. We've got it all. The indoor, outdoor living space, an incredible wellness center downstairs. That's staggering. I want to live here.
Yeah, it's very special. Grateful for the opportunity to be filming here today.
Hello, and welcome back to Coffee and Conversations, where we expose the hidden nuances that are typically only privy for agents and brokers. Today, my guest is Jeannine Savory. She is part of the agency team and the managing broker down at our San Diego office.
That's right.
And she runs her power team out of that office as well.
The Savory Group.
That's right. We are here in Mauricio Umansky's gorgeous home that he's listed. Well, it's not his home, but he's listed it at 1357 Laurel Way.
Priced just under $33 million. An incredible value considering you're at 13,000 square feet of living space, and it was built in 2018 and then reimagined after that as well. There's renovations post the original construction, and then just gorgeous views all of downtown Los Angeles and the Pacific Ocean.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't get any better than this.
There's a wave in the housing market that's been building. It's been building for 40 years now. Every day, 10,000 Americans turn 65, and baby boomers this year are turning 80.
Gosh, that's crazy.
It's crazy. And they own a third of the real estate in the housing market. Mm-hmm. And now they're thinking about what's their next chapter in their life.
That's right.
Tell us about what that means to the housing market, to the wealth in these families, and the next generation that's carrying on their legacy.
So they're referring to it as the silver tsunami, and tsunami is the right word for it, given that it's the baby boom for a reason. That was a huge generation, and they are predicting around 80 trillion in wealth that will be transferred from that generation to the next. We haven't seen anything like this since the greatest generation, in which about 40 trillion was transferred from like the 1980s to early 2000, and it was transferred to these baby boomers. So a lot of housing in that. We think there's about a third of that is in real estate, not just housing, but investment properties, commercial properties. As these baby boomers are starting to consider the next phase of life, they're having to look at what to do with these assets.
Yeah, and it must be a difficult conversation for them to be having, if they're even having it at all or preparing.
Who wants to have that conversation? I mean, we're talking about mortality and aging, and these are conversations that we would prefer not to have, but they're very, very important to have now before they're at a point in their life where their health is compromised or whatever, transitions they're going through. They don't want to be in a reactive mode. These are conversations you want to start having while you're healthy.
Yeah, and I can imagine that it's going to impact the market because the generations before, their whole pride was in their house. They spent so much time and so much energy building these big houses, and they were at home a lot.
Yeah.
And then COVID happened, and it changed the way people live now.
Right.
The millennials, they're not interested in staying tied to a big monstrosity of a house anymore. They want to travel. Mm-hmm. And so where their parents or their grandparents might be thinking that they're passing down this home that they worked so hard on and they're going to live in it, that's really not the case.
No.
They're going to probably want to sell it.
Yeah, absolutely. And if they are passing down a massive estate and they think that the children are going to want to move into it, that's one thing. But if they don't, to keep it as a rental property doesn't necessarily even make sense because of Prop 19. Their children are going to be reassessed on the property taxes. So now it's become a financial liability for them as well. And it's a lot of responsibility to have a rental property. So then what is it? The children have to decide to sell it. And sometimes that can be a difficult decision because all the memories that were there, they almost feel guilty selling it. So these assets become like a burden on the children if they don't have a desire to move into them.
Yeah, it makes me think about this expression called Swedish death that's becoming so kind of trendy now, where people are really thinking about their mortality when they die and what their children are going to have to do. And they're cleaning out their houses, they're getting rid of these things and making these choices that they don't leave on their children to have to decide, do I get rid of this? Do I keep this? Do I pass this on? They're helping them because it's hard. I mean, after you lose a family member, you're already grieving. It's a lot.
It is.
It's a lot, and it's gonna be a lot.
It's a conversation that I think a lot of people need to start having sooner rather than later because we're here.
How do you feel that it will actually impact the housing market itself?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So certainly, if we see this product come to market, it will create more opportunities for buyers that otherwise were having a hard time entering the market because of the lack of inventory and affordable housing. That it was that lock-in effect from the COVID 3% interest rate. So it really drove pricing. But there's other things that we have to take into consideration, whether or not the economy is going to support the purchasing power for them, where the interest rates are going to be at that time. But if this inventory does come to market, it will have an impact not only on the buyers and the families that stand to inherit this property, but it'll impact communities and the economy in and of itself. If we see like an oversaturation of inventory that is not, necessarily selling because the generation that is entering the housing market, to your point about post-COVID wanting to be more mobile, there may not be a big buyer pool for some of these larger homes, these big responsibilities.
Just to speak to the larger homes, like families are smaller now. People aren't having like 4 and 5 children. They're having 1, maybe 2. The family size is like, even if they're even having children, a lot of people are opting out of that. So these very large estates, like what's going to happen with them? What do you think is going to happen with that? I mean, they've had so much pride and worked so hard to build these. Like, there's going to be a lot of inventory like that.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And those are things to start considering now, because these assets might be harder for the family to sell. They're now potentially, they have estate tax liabilities and they need to be selling these. They need to become liquid to pay those liabilities if the estate warrants it. And even if the estate doesn't, there's maintenance, there's property taxes that they're going to have to take care of. It can become a challenge. I think that this is something that really they should be looking at sooner rather than later in deploying these assets and recalibrating where that liquidity goes so that the family isn't carrying that burden.
Didn't you tell me that you had recently a client who was in a situation where they had to liquidate some of their assets for that?
I had a family come to me that had, I think, a net worth of around 60 to 70 million from the way that the IRS perceived it. But they were not liquid. It was real estate and business assets that they needed to liquidate. And none of those are easy when you're dealing with certain product types. So they had land. Land can be very complicated to sell. And it's also hard to leverage. So even trying to pull money out against the land to pay the estate taxes can be difficult, if even possible. So in that case, let's just say you have a $60 million inheritance. In 2026, the limit, it's $15 million and above is can be taxed. If you're talking about $45 million in the estate that is taxable, you could have a liability of $20 million to the IRS. So where do you come up with that money quickly if you're selling land? And so they were in that situation. There's no easy answer to it other than, had you set up a life insurance policy in advance, certainly you could cash that in and that would help with those liabilities. But when you find yourself in a situation like that, now you're sourcing hard money. You're taking out a loan with the IRS. In today's environment, that's going to be around 7%. You're paying $100,000 a month just in estate interest taxes while you liquidate the properties. And you're selling under duress. So you're losing value because, time is of the essence. So you can very quickly start to deteriorate the estate if you're not prepared.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot to think about. If you were going to tell people one thing to do right now to help prepare for when they transition, what would you tell them? Like, what's the most important thing that they should be thinking about and doing right now?
It takes a team. I don't think there's any one person that can give all the advice that they're going to need. It's a wealth manager, it's a CPA, and it's an attorney. And I know that can sound expensive and intimidating, especially if you're not talking about, millions and millions of dollars. It's different for different sectors of the wealth. Say you're $1 million is what you're going to pass down. Definitely you need to have a trust, right? The property, all the assets, the beneficiaries need to be identified and updated in all of your assets so that that's not going to probate. And probate can be expensive and stressful, and you need to get lawyers, and that deteriorates the inheritance. But then when you're starting to get into these larger assets, I would say a wealth manager is a great starting point. A tax advisor really wants to help you save money today. A wealth manager is going to look at tomorrow and whether or not it makes sense to bring in those life insurance policies. And then also a lawyer, because estate planning is very complex when you get into these higher numbers. And then obviously the real estate agent, right? Because the real estate agent's going to be looking at the assets, and perhaps you're inheriting a property. You want to be talking to a real estate agent, making sure that nobody's signing leases on that, because now you're inheriting a property that has a tenant in it, and that can be more complicated to sell, especially with all of the rules in California around tenancy and so forth. So it's a whole team, but I would say definitely start with the trust. You want all of your assets in the trust. You want to make sure all of your beneficiaries are updated. I mean, I see people that have been divorced and remarried, and they never updated the beneficiary on the what they're going to be paid from the union that they worked for, and the current spouse isn't even in a position to receive those assets. So there's things like that easily can be identified with like a wealth management checklist, and then a trust attorney. Certainly a real estate agent will know where to point you. It's our fiduciary duty to make sure that our clients are getting aligned with, everything that can help them preserve their real estate assets. So your real estate agent shouldn't be giving you the advice on these types of things. They shouldn't be giving you tax advice or wealth advice or legal advice, but they should be putting you in touch with those resources to make sure you're prepared.
The idea of putting together a team, having these advisors, these professional advisors, is so critical. My own experience of having some clients that were in Montecito, the mother who had the business ran this incredible business, an empire that she built over 25 years, had multiple properties in Montecito and had them in mixed trusts, and she passed away. It's been 4 years. They're still trying to untangle this.
Wow.
And it is such a burden on her children, and her children were young. And they were not prepared for this. And it's been a complete nightmare I've watched kind of unfold with this. So get this organized for your kids and your family. Don't leave it up to them, because they're really not going to know what your ultimate life goal is for your legacy and where you want that to go. It's uncomfortable. It doesn't feel good to think about mortality, but just, take those steps.
And life is fragile, and we would like to hope that we have another 10 years with our parents, but you never know, right? And so the sooner you can have those conversations, I think that the odds of preserving the family dynamics after you're gone, avoiding conflict amongst siblings are far greater. And it's not just about wealth, right? We're talking about leaving legacies. And the last thing you would want is to know that you've raised your children in this loving environment, and then you leave and just conflict evolves and the siblings stop talking to each other for the rest of their lives. It's like everything you did as a parent to create a loving environment just is, gone.
And that's the worst that you want to do.
Yep.
One of the things that people are not thinking about is what their grandchildren are going to remember about them. It begs for the question, what do you want your grandchildren to remember you by? How do you want them to think about you?
Right.
I mean, we all after somebody passes away, we mostly only remember the good stuff, okay? But what is the good stuff that you really want them to remember you?
It's the hard work that got you there, right? And the values that you want to transfer with this wealth. You don't want to see it be destroyed. You structure it in a way that it can't be destroyed. And these are things that you need to be thinking about now. It's not just about a transfer of wealth, it's transferring a legacy. Sure, the money is one thing, but the clarity and the path forward so that they can carry on this legacy is just as important. They say wealth has 3 phases generationally. There's the first generation that builds it, and we saw that, in the 1980s to early 2000, we're calling that the greatest generation. Then they transferred it to the baby boomers who grew it. And now we are in that 3rd generation that either sustains it or destroys it. And they need clarity. They need to understand what it took you to get there so that they have the path forward to maintain it.
That's exactly right. And maybe even if it's not just like getting rid of it, it's like setting them up so that the business or the property can be sustained and carry on and continue to generate income and wealth for the next generations. Maybe that's the way to look at it too. It's a conversation.
It is, absolutely.
It's a conversation.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Jeannine, for coming today. Driving all the way up from San Diego.
Oh, this is important. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, and hanging out in this gorgeous listing of Mauricio's. He has the best ones. We at the agency, by the way, if you guys don't know this, we hold the title of selling the most expensive real estate in the world. Did you know that?
I did, and I'm very proud of it.
It's amazing. Yeah, we're a great company. Yeah. Anyway, thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.